Welcome to Show and Tell. In this series, I review brand new games quickly and with as much detail as possible. Ready? Go. When I began Albino Lullaby, I was completely captivated by the art style, by the music, everything. I was interested in the world that was being presented to me, and honestly, for the first 5 to 10 minutes, it doesn't feel that much like a horror game. As the game continues on, I start to feel the creepiness coming through, with clever little details around in the world that really makes you uneasy. So as I approached the end of the game, I began to wonder what went wrong. Applause sold this game as horror without cheap jump scares. They promised fear, but that fear would be built through the world and the atmosphere rather than exploiting that surprise reflex that the horror genre really likes to fuck with. And for the most part, they accomplished this, though after a while it stopped being all that scary for me. The atmosphere was awesome all the way through, but from about the halfway point, I was playing pretty recklessly, and I didn't feel the need to hide or sneak my way past any of the monsters because they aren't all that hard to avoid, though I recognize that might not be the point. Like I said, the best part of the game is about the first half, and unfortunately, that's only about 1 to 2 hours in. The game isn't very long. It's supposed to be the first part of an episodic trilogy, which is, as we've seen with Telltale, a perfectly viable business model. But the episode took me about 3 to 4 hours to complete, not much longer than a Telltale episode, but it's double the price. As far as I'm aware, a single Telltale episode goes for around $5. This game is $10, and its season pass is $25. That's a pretty premium price. And I also feel the gameplay was padded out with some tedious sections, and the checkpoints are very sparse. Now, this wouldn't be a problem if the game required any skill, but it's basically trial and error. Trial and error with barely any checkpoints leads to a pretty frustrating experience a lot of the time. In particular, one section with an elevator. You need to survive here for a couple minutes with the main enemies of the game, but the checkpoint takes you to a spot way before you ever reach the elevator. It doesn't help that it's easy to die, and simply not knowing what you have to do means you have to start over a lot. The reason that particular section sticks out to me is because up until that point the frame rate was fine, but in this section with the elevator, and for even longer than that, this goes on for maybe 30 minutes, the average frame rate was at 20. At one point, I saw it go down to 7 frames per second. I'm not sure if they didn't have time, because up until that point the performance was okay. It would sometimes drop to 50-ish frames, but that was the worst of it. This section of the game becomes nearly unplayable, and I even tested it on lower settings and with recording turned off. No dice. It's a real shame because, like I said, there's a lot to love in this game and there's clearly talent behind it. I am excited for the next part, which is slated for Q2 of 2016, I think it said at the end, because I want to see where the story goes. I liked the ending to this episode, and I liked all of the crazy world-building details throughout the Mechanical Mansion. And I haven't even mentioned how they managed to strike this bizarrely effective balance between the monsters being comedic and them being terrifying at the same time. The game is absolutely worth a look, but it's gotta be on a sale, or you have to be a massive fan of the atmosphere for it to be worth it. Thanks for watching. See ya.